What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Lapeef. Let's talk. Today we have our guest, Anton,
What's happening, fam?
Tawana,
How you doing?
and B Next,
Hey, what's going on with it?
and myself, JR. Today's topic is going to be what women need to understand about men. Since it's Father's Day coming up soon, I just wanted to kind of chime in on something for the men. The question that I think men tend to think is men get less attention, love, and support on Father's Day compared to mothers on Mother's Day. How you feel about that, Nix?
Yeah, I mean, I actually I agree with you. I think that as a society, we kind of have there's more attention, there's more support, it's more love that's given, and it's more socialized for women for Mother's Day as opposed to Father's Day. I think Father's Day is kind of like an afterthought. I admit, being a father, it snuck up on me. I really haven't heard the same type of advertisement. I really thought Father's Day was actually last weekend. In all honesty, I think it's kind of late this year. But I don't know. It's sad, but I became conditioned where I don't really expect to get the same type of attention for Mother's Day. But I think in the same breath, it kind of devalues the role of a father. That unfortunately, I don't know if fathers are really celebrated, the same way as a parent compared to their counterpart, the mother.
How you feel about it, Anton?
For like the first time on this thing, I think me and B Nix might have the exact same perspective, and I don't have any kind of disagreement with his initial
Hey,
assessment.
I'm glad this recorded. Hey, first time.
But I mean, as it relates to Father's Day and Mother's Day, I personally have conditioned myself to not even pay attention to it. I mean, and not even just Father's Day, like any other major day that is celebrated in the United States, whether it a birthday or Christmas or whatever. I think we always come way down in the totem pole as it relates to relevance versus what's celebrated for other people, and whether it be for women or kids, but specifically we talking about women and men. But I think that women are I don't know how it's marketed or if we just accepted it or whatever it is, but I think overwhelmingly we fall much further on the totem pole as far as relevance, which it shouldn't be that way, but we do.
That's good. Tawana, I want to ask you, the men that you've seen like in your lifetime, have you seen them to be celebrated the same as the mothers?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's obviously less of an emphasis on Father's Day. But it's a lot of different things that contribute to that. I'm not going to excuse it, but I'm just saying that there are reasons why mothers are celebrated. It goes back to that saying, mama's baby, papa's maybe, right? So it's always, the mother is always initially the one who is responsible. The men, have an option. And so that is the, that's the narrative out there. I don't excuse it. I'm not saying that's the narrative for all men. And obviously there are some exceptions, right? But then the narrative is that the woman is the sole, like they're always going to be responsible regardless of whether the man decides that he wants to be responsible or not. So that is partially the reason why there's some, I hear y'all quiet back there. I'm just saying it is what it is,
Yeah, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Nix. Go ahead.
No, but Tawana, you made me think about just I can't necessarily say as a kid I celebrated Father's Day. My father wasn't there, so it's like for me it's still kind of new as to how is that socialized to me about Father's Day, because it's really something that's kind of a new concept in some cases. If we see specifically, in black families, if the father isn't there, then of course there's no celebration. If anything, it's a point of contention when Father's Day come up, because it brings up what the father didn't do. I think there has been an emergence over the past, I say at least 5 to 10 years. We've been seeing Black fathers highlighted and viewed in a positive light outside of just looking at sitcoms and TV shows. But I think there's something that's still, right now, our current society is generating the identity of what Father Day truly mean, because I can't necessarily say it was socialized or highlighted in specific Black families, not all Black families, but in a nice sum of families over the 90s and the 80s.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
I remember women in my family getting celebrated for Mother's Day and Father's Day, bro. I don't like that.
Right.
I don't. I really don't. I don't like that. I think that, and I'm not really a big holiday person, and perhaps that comes from being conditioned over the years to believe or see things according to a certain type of way. But as I get older and as I start to do my own research and as I start to explore and ask certain questions and have conversations with different groups, whether it be single fathers or single mothers, or, you know, having conversations with people that are, you know, that have been married for a long time, and whether they're young or old, I guess that narrative is starting to change as far as how I see things. And I guess I'm starting to do a little bit more research as far as looking at root cause of how things are coming to be. So like, for example, Tawana, you highlighted, or you said that, you know, part of that narrative could be, or I'm not sure if you said it is or it could be, but you said part of that narrative was because women are the caretakers, whether or not men are there or aren't. But then that begs the question, without trying to go too far into a rabbit hole, of have men been excluded from the process significantly? You know, of course, you're always going to have, you know, circumstances where you got that dude that's just ain't even going to show up. But what about a lot of the guys that want to show up? You know, maybe the relationship didn't work. And, you know, because parts are initially, especially in the beginning, slanted to always side with women before even hearing the case, right? Does that play a role in whether or not men, you know, we've been conditioned to look at things a certain type of way based off of how society has been slanting things towards women?
And the thing is, with women, we don't have a choice like that. We have to step up. We have to do what we have to do. We have to be mothers. And so men, it's like, well, are you allowing us? Nobody has to allow me to be a mother. I have to be the mother to my kids, right? And so when men don't step up and then they use that as, oh, well, it's because she's making it difficult, you know, this, that, and the third. Now, there are factors, you know, the court systems it does not support, you know, fathers. And I do agree with that. You know, there are some other factors that play roles in the reason why, you know, men decide, you know what, she's going to fight me, I'm just going to step back. But there are a number of single women, single mothers, especially in predominantly Black communities. And so, you know, when you're raised by a single mother, you know, oftentimes they are mother and father to you. And so, you know, is that okay to say, well, look, I'm going to, you know, highlight this person that's been both to me, you know, my entire life? Or, you know, should you just keep that in Father's Day for the men and, you know, acknowledge it as, okay, I'm not a father. Yes, I'm a mother and I may be doing both roles, but am I really a father? You know, is that sufficient to, you know, celebrate that when I know I'm the only parent that stepped up? I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm just saying that I understand the rationale behind it.
I mean, everything, I guess, is circumstantial, but
yeah,
I think that the narrative or something that's been painted for a long time is that Black men are no good when it comes to, you know, being single parents. And I guess over time, I've learned that that's not necessarily the case, or that's not necessarily true. And I'm really hard on guys. So, you know, I'm very, very hard when it comes to making sure that people take accountability and responsibility for whatever the situation they're in. If you created the kid, you know, the kid didn't ask to be here. You have to be a parent. You have to be a father. You have to be a significant force in their life. But I think that if a guy says, well, this woman is making it difficult, it's an unpopular opinion. It's an unpopular perspective. So I think that's one of the things, because if a woman says something, you know, it's automatically highlighted. It's something that we need to address. It's something that needs to be attended to. But if a man says something, or if he puts out a narrative that says, you know, okay, I'm still going to fight for my kid. I'm still going to fight to see my kid, but she's making it extremely difficult. That's an unpopular opinion. And that's not something that we're addressing, even as a community, let alone as a society. That's not something that we're addressing as far as like, why aren't men and the things that they're saying or the things that they're addressing, how come that's not something that's being talked about?
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Anton.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, you know, in life, the things that we desire, we fight for. You know, I feel like, you know, holding ourselves accountable as fathers, specific Black fathers, hey, you fight for the right to see your child. And I think in some cases you even see it where the child spends the majority of the time with the mother. Like the father gets the child on weekends, but days, you know, 5 days a week or Sunday through Friday afternoon, like really they're with mother. So I think that's the part where it's like being a part-time, you know, parent as a father. I feel like part-time is different for a mother. Because I mean, I think, and Tawana, you may agree, it's viewed differently. I don't think that mothers can be part-time. I feel like you're shunned by other mothers and peers that you're a bad mother. But the way men are viewed, like if you're part-time, oh, okay, cool, at least you're in the child's life. So I think that we have a different value system on how we view expectations of the mother, in which we do highlight the mother and reward her, but for a father, it's like a bonus. That's the way I think we treat it as society. Like, oh, that's so good that you're, you know, handling your children by yourself without any help.
Right.
Like it's just like, oh, icing on the cake. No, that's
Exactly.
the job. You know, you
And so
children.
let me give y'all a personal story, because I was married 10 years, and I don't know if you guys know that. And I mean, he was in our kids' life for most of our lives, you know. And so when we divorced, you know, 3 years ago, like he would come around when he felt like it. And it could be months before he saw his kids. And his excuse to me was, well, I'm trying to get my life together, and I can't be anything to my kids while I'm trying to get my life together. Well, we were divorced. And so you think I don't have to get my life together? That was financial support and all types of things that I'm missing now that we're no longer together. So I'm in the process of getting my life together, but I still had to have my 2 children through that process. He had months where he was away from us and didn't have to worry about my kids for months. You know, so there's that narrative that I'm talking about. It's like, okay, well, I couldn't take a break from my kids. I had to make sure they went to school, paid for their schooling, make sure he could take a break because he wasn't working or he had all this stuff going on. So it's just that double standard there, where women are automatically responsible for the kids, and it's almost frowned upon if we don't step up. And with men, it's like, well, you know, he was going through this and you was patient with him, and obviously the relationship has gotten better, but I struggle with, you know, whether I should celebrate him or not, because I feel like sometimes it's like optional for him, you know. So I do struggle with that. So, you know.
Do you think that, are you of the opinion, and I guess you can answer it personally and overall, like, you know, as a society in general, do you think that kids are generally better off when they have both parents in their lives?
Absolutely. I do. I mean, I had both parents in my life. And even though my parents, they were separated, I had both of them in my life. They were always both active in my life and still a resource for me. And I have friends and I have experiences with people who didn't have their fathers in their life. And that void is significant. And definitely more significant when the mother is absent. But when that father is absent, you know, they look to men in toxic ways, right? Those relationships become toxic because they don't know how to have a healthy relationship with men. And so, yes, you see those things play out. So how do we, you know, I have tried to be so flexible because I know how important it is for my kids have their father in their life, right? Especially my daughter. So I see that impact and when he disappoints her. So I'm like, let me just be flexible. Let me just allow him to come over whenever. But then it kind of disrupts my life too. So when do you draw the line? You know, what do you do? And how do you avoid being difficult? You know, so we say, and you know, just allow yourself to be like, okay, I don't want to be difficult, but at the end of the day, you can't just show up one day without calling and, you know, show up at me and my new man house. You know what I'm saying? So how do you draw the line?
This is a difficult conversation to have with you because you're not unreasonable. So I'm used to talking to people that's unreasonable, and then I gotta try to
be talking about Jabari, man.
Yeah, definitely unreasonable. I will say that I am super flexible, and I can be a little. I'm very open to other people's perspective.
Yeah,
but I can be. I can be strong-minded and tough on people too. So you know, I have both sides. you know, last week Anton. So I have both sides. You know, just depends on how passionate I am, I guess.
All right, I want to kind of switch it up a little bit. So, you know, there was this thing that came up that said men get annoyed when they find out that the woman's best friend know everything about their relationship. How you feel about that, Nix? Is that true? Like, do men get annoyed?
I don't know. I kind of don't care. But I mean, the thing is one of those like, well,
I mean, everything.
What all is being shared?
You don't know. That's the thing.
And is one of those, is it being shared and is being communicated back to me? You know, that's the part where I think I still live by the creed that what goes on in this house stays in this house. I know it's kind of old school, but I look at that in most situations, whether it's like me growing up as a child with my moms and my grandma or in a relationship. I feel like, hey, you know what? We shouldn't be able to air out dirty laundry outside of this house. So, I mean, technically, I can't say I have any experiences of like, oh, folks who talk too much, but hey, if anything, if I do hear about it and it makes me feel uncomfortable, then I need to address it. But if it's something that kind of floats out there that I really don't care about, I think it's more so reflecting on, well, is it the fact of what was said? Is that what bothers me? Or the fact is like just the idea of somebody gossiping about things that's happening. So I think it depends on where's the sore spot at. Is it about what was said or just the act of saying something?
What about you, Anton? As a man, if you go to the friends gathering or something like that, and you get in the side eye, and you find out that your wife told her best friend about a situation that you guys had at the house, how do you feel about that?
I think B-Nix hit it spot on. I'm just not as nice as him, you know, with my wording. I think B-Nix is very, very smart in how he strategically words himself to make sure that he's not offending anybody. But for me, it's all gossip. First of all, I should be your best friend. Secondly, it's almost like, because I'm used to living my life like an open book. You know, I got a channel and I'm used to people knowing almost every aspect of my life. But at the same time, it's almost like the intention. Like, you don't have anything better to talk about. Is that the basis of your friendship? You know, with your homegirl, is it completely based off of talking about other people, gossip, or, you know what I'm saying, trying to get a pulse? The thing that I've always said is, if you're having more conversation with the person that's outside of your relationship, but your relationship, what does that say about you? Because you can be spending more time effectively communicating. Let's just put it out there. So let's just say hypothetically, they talking about X, right? And they talking about, oh, okay, he don't do this, or I would prefer that, or whatever it is. You know, I'm always about being transparent and honest and real. So if that's not the conversation that you having with the person that you laying up with your wife or your spouse or your husband or whatever like that, that's not a healthy relationship. And I don't want to kick it with your homegirl. Like, my chicks, I always say my, and I know people get offended like that, but my girls' friends I don't kick it with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even, it's all cool, but it's just like when she with them, I don't even know what they talking about. But if I find out that you talking about something, you know what I'm saying, that don't make sense, I'm gonna address you specifically and highlight, why are you talking to them about this, not talking to me about it? Like, you're not in a relationship like that with them. You're in a relationship with me. It's all gossip to me. It's trash. I don't get it.
But it's not gossip. It's trying to relate to someone. Like, men do not understand us. I don't care how much you think you understand us. It's hard for you to completely understand where we're coming from. And sometimes you need the woman's perspective. And that's the reason why we reach out to our girlfriends, because it's like, man, he's doing this. And sometimes your girlfriend can reel you back in. Now, sometimes your girlfriend can be toxic. I guess your woman would have to decide what type of friend she got. But at the end of the day,
if the guy don't understand you, why wouldn't you be communicating with the guy instead of communicating with your girl and start instead of trying to tried.
You probably tried.
But that's why you in a relationship, is because there's no limits to the amount of effort that you're supposed to give as far as making sure that relationship works. It don't matter if you try it once. It don't matter if you try 70 times. If you're going to continue to be in a relationship, you got a responsibility to ensure that relationship is successful by any means necessary and put the amount of effort in. If you give it any effort outside of that, but your relationship is not ideal, then that's wrong. It's 100% wrong.
You can't possibly think that just because you married, you're not going to relate to nobody else in this world. That's unrealistic. You gonna have other people that you relate to and that you want to talk to outside of your husband. There's no way
about your relationship.
Talk to him all the time.
I would never ever talk to anybody outside of my wife about what's happening with my wife. No way, shape, or form. I don't care how cool we are. I don't care how long we've been kicking it. I don't care if we've been homeboys since forever. If it got to do with her and something personal, I'm not talking about something general. But if it don't have something to do with something personal, I don't play that game. The only thing you ever gonna know about my wife, even if we get divorced, the only thing you ever gonna know as a friend of mine is how awesome she is. You're never gonna know a flaw about her. Because if it's a flaw, then it's something I need to communicate with her about, not you.
Well, I got two different perspectives, because I was, you know, of course, like married 10 years, and I kept everything private, everything. So then when we got divorced, my entire family was like, work on this. What are you doing? What's wrong? But didn't know all the things that I was going through. So then when I finally, when everything started to materialize, everybody was like, what? Why were you going through that and didn't say anything? Like, why weren't you telling us what was going on? Me personally trying to keep it private and trying to do exactly what you did was toxic for me. So like, I feel like sharing is not a bad thing. And it just depends on what you share. Like, I'm not saying tell your husband's intimate, sexual fantasies, all that type of stuff.
But I guess
saying,
at the same
like,
time,
talking about
what's the limit though?
What's the limit? Like, when he do some stupid and I need my girlfriend to be like, girl, yeah, that was stupid and blah, blah, blah. And I need that validation, because men is not going to validate you. They going to be like, well, you know, turn it around and flip it and manipulate you. I need my friend to be like, nah, girl.
But why do you need like validation from somebody else outside of your relationship?
Sometimes
that's the part that I'm not getting.
But you know what, though? I think that also, like, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Twan, but it's like, I just think guys don't talk like that. Like, guys talk, but guys really don't really have, like, at least I say in my circle, we really don't have like intimate conversations really about, like, you know, unless I'm like really pissed off and maybe that one friend we go to more so to vent. But right. I think the way JR framed it, like, just kind of, I'm looking at it, maybe I interpret it like, oh, gossiping. Like, and that's what Anton talking about, like, hey, whatever goes on in this house, you need to come through me before you share it out with somebody else. But I think it depends on what type of relationship you got. Right. I mean, I just think from a man's perspective, I don't think men do talk, they do gossip. I think when it comes down to relationship stuff, we really don't. Y'all
don't communicate, period. It's hard to get y'all to communicate at all. So like,
but I mean, that goes back to the subject of this whole thing, though. It's like,
Yeah.
What don't y'all understand about us? Because the conversation always gets turned back around to what women need or what women want.
Right.
But really, when it comes back down to it, like, y'all really don't, because I know I heard you say we don't get y'all. Y'all don't get us. Y'all really
I
don't.
agree.
Like,
And
y'all
it's
are
never a
way
space
off.
for folks to be like, man, what men want. I don't think that ever comes out.
100%.
That never comes out of no one's mouth.
Never.
Like we talking about
Never.
Father's Day, like, hey, you know what? We need to do more for fathers. Nobody advocates for Father's Day or for fathers or for men in general. It's just like, okay, well,
I don't think it's nobody. That's being a little. I mean, you got
pretty accurate.
Generalizing, but I mean, I think it's.
But he's pretty accurate.
So.
The general sentiment, even if you look at marketing, like if you look at the marketing around certain days, when it's Mother's Day, it's a crazy marketing blitz. It's Father's Day, just like B. Nick said, he forgot what Father's Day was. I don't even pay attention to it no more. It's just like, okay, whatever.
Y'all need
to like Menards or Home Depot.
Men need
like
to
a
step
Father's
their
Day
game
sticker.
up.
I mean, that's the only time it comes up, and I may not.
And then what they selling though, B. Nicks,
this weekend. So
they selling though, B. Nicks. They selling you stuff that you're gonna use to fix up the house of somebody else. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? More.
So true story. I get my tools on Father's Day because y'all have the best deals. Like I be like, oh man, let me go get this. Let me go get this. Gonna be 50%.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
That's what I do on Father's Day.
I mean?
I know for sure that it's gonna be discounts on that stuff. Barbecue grills, half off. But at the end of the day, men have to. Okay, the whole entire daddy narrative has to change in the Black community, and that's just it. Just is what it is. Like you can't just stop in when you feel like it, be a father sometimes and not. No, that narrative needs to change. And sometimes the family structure is not there. Sometimes men want to have a baby before they want to be married. They be like, oh yeah, I'll get you knocked up. And that's just what it is. That's true. And
You're
it's
right
like, what the heck? So I'm hearing you want me to be a baby mama. That's what I hear. But some girls hear, oh, he want me to have his baby. And that's cool. So now we got all these single mothers out here that's just so happy because the man want to have his baby. They want him to have the baby. No, that don't fly with real women because we want everything.
I don't know.
So it just depends, you know.
I think it's generational too. I think that there is like a devalue on like relationships. I mean, having a baby, it just look like it's it's almost like a transaction nowadays. Like, hey, you wanted a baby. Hey, I wanted a little man or a little seed or whatever. We could just come together and then that's it. So I think that when we talk about these kind of really these created holidays like Mother's Day and Father's Day, I feel like specifically to the father side of it, it gets devalued. And really, it's a created holiday. I mean, a lot of these are really holidays anyway. So my thing is that Father's Day, hey, if you're a father handling your business, Father's Day is every day. And I'm sure a mother can say the same.
No, but see, that's wrong. That's the one part where me and you disagree, B-Nix, because I think that if you're handling your business, then every day is really Mother's Day, bro. Like, if we taking care of our business like that, we don't really have time. Like, if you look at the criteria and the standards for what it takes to really be considered a real man in society today, it's very demanding. Like, it's very high level, high stress, high strung. And so if I'm being a real man, according to what we deem in society as being a real man, then that means that the overwhelming majority of my day is looking out for other people. So I'm not necessarily being celebrated. I'm making sure that everybody else is taken care of and I'm putting myself last. That's really what it comes down to.
That you have around being a real man. Like, I'm confused, but what is this that is so demanding that is so difficult? Tell me.
Okay, so we can do. I'm so glad you asked that question.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
exactly where I wanted you to go.
Hear this. I'm like, I'm all ears. I need to put my ear to what's going on here.
So, I think that in a relationship, and when I say a relationship, I'm talking about people that's married. I don't even believe in boyfriend and girlfriend past the age of 25. Like, either you're married or you're not. So when I say in a relationship, that's specifically what I'm talking about. When you marry, right? And according to how I've been raised, I've never seen anybody, and I think I mentioned this before, I've never seen anybody in my family ever get divorced. My father, my 3 brothers, all of my grandmothers, 12 kids, none of them have ever been divorced. So the standard has always been, yeah, it's okay if the woman does this, that, and so. However, it always falls back on the man's shoulders. If you about to get evicted, if the bills is not paid, whatever, so on and so forth, yeah, okay, it's difficult. But what the question always comes back to, hey, man, you taking care of your business? Like, I'm never going to say, go to the woman in a relationship and say, hey, how come you getting kicked out of your house? Like, that's the conversation that we've always had with men. So the burden always falls back on our shoulders. Is your kids doing what they're supposed to do? No? Okay, she not being the okay, what are you doing in a relationship as the man in order to address this? Like, the burden has always home improvement, whatever. And I'm not talking about being in a single situation. I'm just talking about in a relationship, the women have the luxury to be able, in a general sense, in most situations, they have the luxury to be able to do what they want versus men having a requirement and then getting the leftovers as it relates to that. And you know that that's accurate. That's deadly accurate. Come on, you can agree. You know it's accurate.
I mean, I feel like women also have partial responsibility financially. So if you're looking at the financial responsibility in the home, then I guess you could say, okay, men feel an obligation, but
you have to. It's the number one reason why people get divorced.
Okay, you feel obligation, but that doesn't mean that you're solely responsible and that it's only falling on your shoulders.
Yes, it does. That's exactly what it means.
A career woman as well. How is it?
But you can have a career. You can have a career, but let's just say hypothetically, let's use your situation, right? Let's use you. Let's say you're in a relationship, you married, and then you want to have another kid, right? And then after you have a kid, you want to be a full-time mom until the kid goes to school full-time. That's a conversation that you can have. I can't come to you and say, you know what? I just want to be a full-time dad and I want to leave all the responsibility to you. That's less accepted because as a man, I bear the overwhelming brunt of the responsibilities as it relates to making sure that we provide it and we protect it. That's just the truth.
Most of y'all can't do it anyway.
I don't know that. I've never seen that.
I agree with Anton's point of view, but more so from just how society is viewed. I mean, I think that it's hard being, like, I guess, a real man, or however you want to define it, a father. It's hard being a mother too, but I feel like, again, going back to advocacy, there's no advocacy for men. So the thing is, it's kind of like there's no out. Like, the only reason I agree with Anton from the aspect that it's hard being a man, because the fact is, you're not going to get no sympathy from nobody. You're not going to get sympathy from another man. You know, there's an expectation, these societal norms and value systems that we have, men compared to women. I would never be able to say, like, hey, you know what, babe? Like, man, like, to Anton's point, I'm going to just be a stay-at-home dad. I will get talked about to the end of days, you know?
Yep.
So the thing is like, but also because of that fact of how men are undervalued, I think in a case I've undervalued myself as a father, where, like, I'm not even expecting no type of recognition for what I do. I just know, like everything else Anton mentioned, like, it's a job. I go to work, I make money, I provide for children, I provide for my spouse, I provide for my moms or a family member, aunt, uncle, whoever's in need, hell, in-laws, whatever the case is. And I'm just supposed to be like, oh, okay, well, all in a day's work. So that's why I feel like, yeah, it's a day, but shoot, I don't see nothing to get excited about, because it's, you know, we're not celebrated. And I don't even know how to celebrate myself, or I think men don't.
But you know what, B-Nix, though?
Expectation.
My dad, I one of the things that my dad told me, because my dad, he died in like a freak accident like a couple years ago or whatever. But one of the things that he told me before, you know, because we was best friends and we had a really great relationship. He taught me everything I felt like I needed in order to be successful as a man. he told me that being a husband and a father was a thankless job. Like, that was the main conversation we had like 3 days before he passed away. It was almost like he just felt like his whole life, outside of ensuring that his kids were successful and the success of his kids, he was old school. At the end of it, when it was all said and done, he just felt like he had wasted his life. And mainly, I think he started coming to that realization because him and my mom had been married over 30 years and things like that. But she was still the same way, even after the kids was gone. Like, he had no control as far as like, she was going to do what she wanted to do. He would be like, yo, we need to budget or whatever. And she would have bags hidden in her car and all of this other type of stuff. And he had learned to accept that because, you know, he felt like it was almost like he was trapped. You know what I'm saying? He had no out. It was never a day that, you know, he could just not go to work and just enjoy himself because he was subjected to a certain standard by which he was raised in the South. And now, you know, there was nobody that he can ever go to. He couldn't go and, you know what I'm saying, express himself or vent or even go to her or go to somebody else without them being like, oh man, come on, suck it up, man up, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, you know, his situation, I think, is not that unique. It's a lot of guys going through a lot of stuff and they not being able to communicate effectively because it's not a societal norm. And I know that, you know, some people are saying, well, you know, don't define yourself by going by what happens in society. You know, define yourself by what works for you. But everything we know and do and learn is a learned behavior. We raised to be a certain type of way. We raised to expect and accept certain things. We're raised to operate a certain type of way. We raised to treat women a certain type of way. When you see society or even the Black community, when you see the Black community operate in a certain type of way, it was a phase where, you know, back in the late early 90s where, you know, Snoop and all of them was big and it was, you know, pimping, all of that. You know what I'm saying? When you see a reflection of certain things happen within our society, that's a learned behavior. That's something that's being conditioned within our minds to accept and believe and operate a certain type of way. So when I seen him, it broke my heart because I knew that if I didn't operate and move in a different type of way, I was going to be just like that. And it's a lot of dudes going through a lot of that type of stuff and they not being able to communicate effectively. They not being advocated for. They're not being celebrated. And it's just, it's sad. It's absolutely sad.
I mean, they grown men. Like, to me, this is what I'm saying.
See?
Okay,
exactly.
But here's the thing, though. How is it that you are saying that some woman is forcing you to do something against your will? Like, that whole dynamic, that whole dialogue, I don't respect. Because at the end of the day, whatever, if you choose that relationship, that marriage, then that's your choice. Don't sit here now
try
to change the narrative and say this woman forcing me to be in this relationship.
That's not true because people change over time. People change over time. So for example, if I'm in a relationship, no, think about it. He got 4 kids. Two of them was adopted, right? My biological father had adopted my 2 older brothers. They were 6 and 7 years older than me. He came into this situation, right? He had me and my younger brother. He got married relatively young. So he went into this thing operating in a certain capacity. And over time, things continuously evolve. People don't meet their expectations all the time. People grow apart. But guess what? If he had walked away from that situation, right? How would his kids suffer? That was his biggest thing. Is his kids, you know, are they really living? No, it's not a choice because as a man, no, as a man, you no longer consider yourself. It's not about you. So your choices are taken away. If I want to make sure that my kids have the best life possible, I'm going to endure through some things, or I'm going to make sure that I put myself in a position where it's more sacrificial for myself. Because when we do make a choice, right? When we do say, okay, I don't want to be bothered no more, then men as dogs, right? They don't want to be, they not doing what they supposed to do. They not a real man, all of this other type of stuff. So it's like, which way is it? Can we advocate and can we have a conversation? Or are all men dogs because they start to make the choice that's what's best for them, right? When you said in the beginning of this conversation, he said, I got to get myself together. You ain't like that. You want to hear it. You ain't want to have that conversation.
Can't you get yourself together and still take care of your family though? See, the thing is, you can't blame someone else for your choices. That's the thing I have with men. It's like, that's what I don't understand about men. So let's talk about that conversation about what I don't understand about men. I don't understand men who blame the decisions they make in life on a woman that they're with. Because at the end of the day, like, I will make the best decision for me and my family. And so I will never blame that man because I made a decision to stay. Like, that's mine.
You get that luxury though. We don't. You got that luxury.
No. Men feel that they don't because they don't communicate. And that is part of what you just said, is that the dialogue is not, it's not acceptable. It's not socially acceptable for men.
The question never is, hey, men, guys, what do you need? What's best for you? How can we make you great? How can we make you feel better? The conversation is never that. The question is always, why aren't men being more protective? Why he ain't a real man? Why he ain't doing this? It's always what he isn't doing. And it's never a conversation based off of what do you need in order to make you more of the person that you're supposed to be? That's never the question. Even this conversation right here, the conversation was supposed to be, what don't women understand about men? Somehow we always get turned back around to why men ain't meeting expectations for women.
That was JR asked those questions. That was not us changing the dynamic. Don't sit here and say that. Now, we don't understand.
That time brings up a good point. It goes back to just how one-sided, we are on how we think. We all play a role. When I keep saying the societal norm, we either created it ourselves or we support it. These narratives where I think that just men are undervalued, where the thing is expectations. I feel like men have like enormous amount of expectations on what it is to be, I guess, defined as a real man. But we still, like Anton mentioned, it's a thankless job. But for me, I'm okay with it being a thankless job. But I think that it still doesn't make it right. I think that,
I think y'all highlighting Mother's Day too much. Like, women, we don't get thanked every day. Like, there's a million jobs we do in a day that.
Oh, yes, y'all do.
No.
Oh, yes, y'all do.
Things that we do in a day that does not get acknowledged.
Well, but then also I feel like there's a level of bias, because the thing is, okay, you may not get thanked every day, but if you compare the groups, men versus women still are rolled out the red carpet.
But y'all comparing it to Mother's Day and Father's Day, not like
so let's have a conversation on what men really need. Like, okay, I don't know if you're dating or not, right? And I'm not gonna say.
I've been in a 3-year relationship since my divorce.
Okay, so a three-year relationship. That's cool. That's dope. Congratulations on that also. So when y'all first started dating, right, what was that conversation like? Did you ask him? Was the questions more geared towards him dating you, or was it more geared towards you dating him, as far as you asking him what his expectations for you were in order for the relationship to be successful also?
He will probably tell you that I can't.
You see how you started laughing?
He will say that I came into it with my list of what I wanted, and I was just kind of like, "This is what I want."
So are
you gonna get that or not? And then it's not.
Again, the expectations, right? And the thing is, guess what? He have to adhere to all expectations, or guess what? He about to get clowned, or he about to get trashed, or like we talked about earlier, gossiping or talking to other people like he just don't get it, or he just ain't fulfilling my needs. I feel like men just, I don't know, maybe, I don't think it's a communication issue, but I just don't think men are wired that way to have those type of conversations with other men that like.
So why not embrace those differences? And why do we demonize one experience versus the other? How come we can't say, well, you know what, men, they don't communicate in that way. Women, we do this. And so that's cool, because guess what? we come together and we kind of balance each other out. But every time it's demonized. Like men also always want to be like on the same level as women. Like they don't just want to stay in their lane and just be a man.
But think about it though. Y'all don't believe in standing lanes no more. Y'all want it all, right? Y'all want equal rights for equal pay. Y'all want all that. But no, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But what I'm saying is the other side of that coin is you don't get the other side that comes along with all of the responsibilities for being. So I'll give you an example. And this is just a general example. When I first got out of high school, I started working in a plant, at a steel plant. When we did overtime on down days, we had to do this really, really hard job. Now, because we was union, we all made the same amount of money. Now, when the girls would come in with the guys, and keep in mind, we all made the same amount of money, the guys would instinctively get the much harder job. Now, why is that? Is that fair? According to what it is that's being required in society, right? Equal work, equal pay, because it ain't equal work. Like more men get jailed every year. More men die from suicides. That's a fact. More men, there's only 2 not homeless shelters, but domestic abuse shelters that'll help men. Like all of these things are not being a part of the conversation when we fighting for equality, because equality means equality on both sides. So my point is that you can't have it both ways. Whenever you go into a relationship, it's always going to be unbalanced. There's always going to be somebody that does a little bit more than the other one. And that's fine. But at the same time, we can't keep acting like it's okay for the dude to continue to burden the overwhelming majority of society's issues without being acknowledged. We got to have that conversation, because if we don't have that conversation, there's always going to be issues within specifically the Black community, because you're not fixing the person that's at the overwhelming majority of the head of the households. As long as you have an issue at the top, it's going to be a trickle down effect through everything else. That's the truth.
Well, I think that you bring some interesting points, but also no one can give you the respect. You have to like take the position, communicate, and see, part of the things that you need to do in order to get the attention and is to communicate. And that is what men struggle with completely, 100%. It's like,
I think we communicate effectively. Y'all just not listening.
No. I think
sometimes it's a lot being said, even in silence.
On a level that you think is effective, but a lot of the times you have to look at how other people view communication so that you can make sure that people understand where you're coming from. So part of the reason the issues with men, especially in domestic violence, is that they feel shame and they don't want to come forward and they don't want to communicate about that. How do you help a population who is afraid to tell you what the issue is, or who don't feel like, it's important, or I don't need to talk about that? Because women are very...
But the same way you help the population and how we've strived and became so successful in highlighting women's issues. But y'all don't want to use that same method, because for some reason, I think that the overwhelming majority of women, and I'm not saying you specifically, but I think that society feels like if I say this about me, it takes away from what it is about you.
I don't think that. I think that that's victimizing men. And I think that you guys aren't victims. I feel like
exactly. See,
individual.
See that? But you already did. But you're discounting us. You're discounting us already.
I'm not devaluing you. I'm changing that vocabulary completely. Like, why even say that you're devalued? No,
because we are. It's the truth.
That to say somebody's devalued means that you're not acknowledged at all, and I don't believe that.
We aren't.
I just think that the acknowledgement that you think you deserve is not on the same level as a mother.
So wait a minute. You're actually saying that we're not devalued. Are you telling me this right now?
I don't believe that devalued is the word.
Well, but the thing is,
I don't believe that's the word.
But it still shows the hierarchy, though, where it's like, even I know you're the woman on the panel, but you're saying about like, well, who's making up what type of value a man should get? Then it's kind of like one of those, like, it still doesn't it's going back to equality, like Anton mentioned, still not equal.
So but where you're scale at?
Value
I want to be equal to the woman. Is that what you're saying?
Because no, we're saying that
hey, it's two parents, period. So the thing is, if you got two parents, why is one parent valued with a certain level of hierarchy as far as care, compassion, and consideration versus like, you know, the man? So it shows this hierarchy, even when we talk about parenting, that we talk about equality, but we don't live it because there is no equality as far as how we view parents being both the man, well, the mother and the father. So it is a level of devalue. And I think it's an acceptance that as a society, we accept it. I mean, Tawana, even what you're saying, like you're saying like, yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. You don't know what women go through. You don't know what men go through. So, I mean, it could go both ways.
I mean, but I think that the difference between men and women is we try to understand where the man is coming from.
We
try to get it. And I try. My ex-husband was a stay-at-home father. And so because of that, because I was the breadwinner, and the reason why is because I just, in my career, I was farther along in my career. So I made more money. So it just made more sense for me to work and for him to stay home. And so, you know, when people hear that, they're like, wait, what? He worked? You know, he didn't work? No, he didn't. For 5 years, 5 complete years.
You just illustrated exactly my example. You just illustrated example
perfectly. What I'm saying is, though, it is the option that women do that. We do step up.
But you have the very minute that he wrote whatever it was that you're describing, it was an automatic question mark placed on him and questioning you like, what? How's that working? Like, it's a question mark. That if we're moving into an era where everything is considered equal and there are no specific defined roles within a relationship, why are we still battling that? At that very simple concept, why are we battling that?
I mean, I think it should be order in the home. I don't know about roles, but everyone should know their place in the home, and everyone should know what they contribute. And if you do get tied up in roles, then that's where you start feeling like, okay, if the mortgage can't get paid by me, then the mortgage can't get paid. And so then you start feeling all that pressure to be something that you really don't have to be when you have a partner to help you. And that's the purpose of having a partner. But I just feel like men take on that stress, and, you know, you guys put that pressure on yourself as well. It's not just
from us.
What'd you say?
You saying we put that pressure on ourselves?
It's not just society though. It is you guys as well. It's like you individually or as a whole, you guys are like, you will neglect your family because you can't financially support them. And it's a shame. It's like a prideful thing. Like, well, you know what? I can't do what I need to do. So I'd rather just be away from them for months and months at a time, instead of like being there and going through the struggle. And women, we'll go through it. If we poor, it's like, whatever, I'm just gonna stay in this little one room with my 2 kids, and then I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna go through this. And it's no pride there, but it's something that men have. It's like, y'all got this prideful thing where, you know, so that's the disconnect. Like, where is that, where we don't understand why you can't just stick in that situation? Why do you have to?
Okay, so let me ask a question, and I just want to ask B next. What don't women understand about men? Like, from your own personal opinion, right? And I guess I'm not necessarily talking about overall, but what don't women understand about men from your experience? You hear me, B next? You muted, bro.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was on. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I've been quiet just because I agree with you, but it does become one of those things where I guess the conversation. How often do in a relationship do we have the space to talk? And I think that varies by the couple. I don't know if men are able to exercise their right as a man to voice their opinion. I think we do communicate, but I'm unsure if their voice is heard. But I think it goes two ways too, because I think at the same time I've seen relationships where there's kind of patriarchal type of approach where a man is the dominant person and is calling all the shots and pretty much is the ruler of the household. So I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because I think it really goes back to those individuals in the relationship on what type of relationship that you want, that's optimal, that you would like to have as an ideal relationship. But the thing is, you make your bed, you sleep in it. If you're in a relationship or marriage, you feel like you're devalued, then, I almost want to say, like, sadly and supportive to Tawana, like, well, did you say anything? Have you spoke up to talk about your vulnerabilities or how you feel mistreated or devalued? Or is this something new? Maybe this person devalued you from the jump and you still went along with getting married. You didn't have to get married. Like you said, there's a choice. This is 2020. We do have a choice, but
they can't.
I don't know. If there's no level of support, it's kind of hard to say what a person may do.
I just don't get why someone feels they can't speak up. Like, I don't get that. And so you feel that way. Why? Because your woman has the control over the finances in the home. Like, what is it that makes a man feel like I can't tell you how I truly feel about being in this relationship? Or is it that he is being selfish and thinking about certain things and not wanting to jeopardize, maybe his family, and so he's keeping
expectation.
It himself. Like, what is
expectation? I can't come to you and I don't got no money, or I haven't done this. And the thing is, because all these different things, I don't feel like I'm in a space where I can complain about just being, hey, I'm tired, I can't work no more, I can't do this, my back is broken. You know what I mean? The thing is like, because of these expectations, I feel men eat it. It's like, oh, well, that's what men are supposed to do. We're conditioned to just deal with shit. I think that's unfair, but I think that's something that's, predates all of us. It's just over the course of decades and generations, like, men just deal with stuff. Hey, you don't get a gift for Father's Day, cool. Like, the thing is, like, even getting a gift, you see, women get all type of extravagant gifts for Mother's Day or Father's, again, going back to the tool set, I get a wrench or something like that. Or I get, like, something to fix the house with.
Get a tie?
Technically, it's not for me. It's for, again, Anton mentioned, to provide. So I get a gift that I have to use to provide a repair job for the household. So technically, it's not really a gift. It's just something that helps support you again.
Yep. You know what? I think that the most attractive thing that a woman can say to a man is, what do you need from me? Or what is it that you want? And how can I be a better person as it relates to ensuring that you get what you need in order to feel successful or feel great about who it is that you are and what it is that you do? Like, that's the most attractive thing that a woman can ever say. But that very rarely happens. And if it does, it happens a lot further into the relationship prior versus that being a part of the conversation before y'all even get into a relationship.
And what I'm hearing is that men need affirmations, and you guys need, like,
absolutely 100%.
Yeah, you know what? Hey, you know what? I didn't say
man like to get praise.
You saying that like men are these fragile creatures. You used that same language before. And I was like, okay, maybe I misinterpret that. But you did it again. You slow walk your point in and try to, like, oh, so you're telling me that you need to hear, oh no, it's okay. Like we're just like these like damsels in distress or something. Nobody's not saying that. I don't need nobody to placate me, but at the same time, like, hey, still respect what I represent.
Well, okay, I'm not saying y'all damsels in
Oh,
distress.
you know what you was doing. Your whole voice changed up. Maybe I shouldn't have said sympathy. I don't need no sympathy for somebody to feel sorry for me, but I do need you to empathize and understand where I'm coming from. So shame on me for saying sympathy.
I do feel like a lot of it is like, oh, I need some attention. Like,
here you go. I thought we were really like, okay. I thought you was really coming with a new point.
I'm so amazing. Like,
hey, JR, hey, give us another question, bro. Like, hey.
No. So no. Let's stay here though. But let's stay here though.
Hey,
because
I already see how she feels. Hey, bring in another panelist.
But
man.
I told you though, a few episodes ago, I said it. I said women date up, and it's not necessarily. Hold on, wait. That's a mentality, bro. It's almost like, how can I get the best of what it is that I need? You know what I'm saying? And when you have that specific mentality, you're not necessarily concerned about the person that you're getting it from. You're concerned about yourself. I think women in general, at least from a dating perspective, are more selfish than men.
I hate
and
that.
But it shouldn't be the case.
I mean,
I know you hate it though. But it's the truth.
Disagree with you 100%. Last time you brought this up, I still disagree with you. It's not 100%, but it makes it seem like folks are opportunists. Like I'm getting into this transactional relationship in order for me to capitalize on the situation.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Wait, before you even say that, I'm gonna ask you, Tawana. I want to ask you a question. Right? What's the most important and attractive thing about a man as it relates to potentially being your husband?
You know, women need security. And I do think that a man who shows that he has some potential to be that security for you, that's stable, that is like the most attractive. It doesn't make us an opportunist though. It's
before I support what Anton is.
And I'm not saying that all women need security. I'm just saying
security.
Security, it could be stability and it could be finances.
It
could be consistency. It could be consistency. It could be a man who is, consistent, who's there.
Consistency, Anton.
Come on, man. You know what's up, bro. You know what's up.
Hey, our opportunists. I just feel that we understand what we need in order for longevity. Like we look at the future and we don't just look at the moment. Women, we think about, okay, in 10 years, where do I want to be? In 5 years, like when we meet you, it may be like the first year we're dating, but we already on year 5 in our brain. Like we understand where we're going and what we want out of life. And so when we think about it, it's like, okay, what's the potential for this guy to be great and to like compliment me and
potential to be great.
Shut up, bro.
Potential to be great.
Hey,
that's
bring in another panelist, man. I need another perspective.
You do.
I don't think like that. I've never thought about I need to feel secure that I'm entering
a man, and it's different from men than it is for women, and that's why I say women date up and men date down, because and you said it earlier. No, they don't. They don't. You're right. But wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you why. You said it earlier, Brandon, when you was talking to Tawana, and you was like, we may feel like we ain't got enough money or something yet, or so on and so forth. That's the sentiment of a lot of guys. They feel like they need to be in a position to be a provider, to meet an expectation that certain women that they want to date have. They're meeting an expectation. And then the women, on the other hand, are having the expectation. And that's the difference between how men think and how women think, bro. It's the truth.
So you think
she just said it. No, she just said it. She just confirmed it.
I disagree with what she said too.
I mean, I just think that men need honor, you need affirmations, women, we need security. And that's just the difference in the way we approach life. And it's not a bad thing, but it's just what it is. I can't ever see a situation where we willingly go into it knowing that, life is going to be screwed up for us in the future. Like, obviously, once you get into the situation, whatever happens, we're there for you. We're going to ride or die, right? We your woman, we're going to stand by your side. But you don't go into the situation. Michelle didn't marry Obama thinking he wasn't going to be great in the future. He wasn't.
No, I mean, nobody just go into a relationship.
But she married.
You got a dope personality and you attractive. Damn, right. I'm still stuck on the about year 5 expectations.
He had a Harvard degree and he was an intern at her law office. So she knew that there was potential for him to be something more than this.
Man, you
dog, think. Wait. Be next, bro. You telling me you don't think, well, you married, it's different. So you're not necessarily in a dating scene. But you trying to tell me that if you had no potential, that would have been okay?
Hey man, I got a dope personality and I mean,
nope, that's not happening
with a woman.
Be next time.
Men don't, looking at it from my vantage point, that's how a man looks in a relationship. Like, hey, she cool and she look good. Like, cool. I could
exactly
this person.
Y'all visual. Women, we can be good.
I led. She's cool, dope personality, look good. So I didn't lead with just physical. It's mental. You gotta mentally be able to carry a conversation. It's a vibe there. But I'm not even thinking about I'm still stuck on year 5 expectations. I can't believe you said that in the beginning.
Every single woman, think about it. Like,
who does that?
The entirety of how a woman is being raised.
Hey, it's me, bro. I'm sorry. I should actually apologize for what I said to you 2 weeks ago. It's me. You know what? Obviously, like, hey, we need another panelist, JR. Like, because obviously I'm the outlier.
Truth, man. It's the truth.
I'm the outlier.
I mean,
this conversation. You're the outlier in this conversation, but
think about it though. Like, all while women are coming up, what are they dreaming about? The dream wedding, the house, the kids, all this other type of stuff.
Hey,
that's not what we thinking about as we coming up. We coming up as men. We're not thinking about our dream wedding. We thinking about, who is that chick that just walked past me right now?
Well, when I went on a date, like the first date, and I always tell my boyfriend that the first date, I had no expectations. I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna have a drink and kick it. It wasn't until he started talking about his life and he was like, all the stuff he was doing. I was like, wait a minute, I need to take this day seriously. Let me focus here.
Saying, bro?
I was playing, like, at first I was just kind of at the date, like having fun. And he was like, no, got this going on. I'm like, okay.
You perked up, right?
Come on, Anton, don't gas it, bro.
At first,
you perked up.
Okay. You don't know. You don't think if
Tawana, I'm so glad that you're on here being honest.
I wouldn't have never thought twice.
I'm so glad you're on here being honest, girl. You are the best.
I thought I was being honest too, bro.
You are being honest, but I just need her telling the absolute honest to God truth.
And that just
helps.
Bro.
No, but what it does, but see, I'm thankful for it because what it does is it gives us insight.
It confirms
it gives us insight into how we need to move more effectively, bro. Seriously, the expectations for men is different than the expectations that we may have for women. And it's never going to change. It's never going to change. I don't care how much progress we make in society. That is going to be that's going to be the norm, bro. It is what it is. We can pretend. Well, I can go to the bar and be like, oh my God, I just really love your mindset. Come on, bro. We know that ain't flying.
I mean, I guess at a certain age you may evolve, but initially you guys are visual and this is what you want. And so you have to get past
to do what? Like, it's the same routine. Like, hey, you got a dope personality and you look good. I don't care if we were 20 or if we was like 55 years old. I think it's pretty consistent across multiple generations of men.
It's changed for me. As I get older, I'll be like, dang, did she talk too much? Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's the deal breaker for you?
Yeah, like, dang, dog, she got a lot of opinions.
But we all talk. See, women talk. Me and y'all don't. Y'all mute.
No, I'm saying though, but like y'all can talk.
Y'all
can talk.
We communicate.
No, hey, I disagree with that. You keep trying to make it seem like we don't talk, we don't communicate. Like we these weird, awkward, introverted people that just help to impregnate people, but yet we don't talk and we don't communicate. Like, stop making us seem all weird.
I just feel like y'all don't communicate. I'm trying to give me a scenario where it's different, because I feel like the communication is not there, and maybe it's because of the way I communicate. I guess maybe
But see, that's the thing though. Like,
maybe that's
but here's the thing though. Like, it's other different ways to communicate. Like, for example, if I shut down, that mean that I don't want to talk no more. That's a form of body language is a form of communication. I mean, I'm saying, like, it's a lot of things. Like, for example, guys, we rather fix the problem than talk about it. That's one of the things. That's one of our characteristics. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't read your mind. Like, stop expecting us to already know exactly what it is that you want. Like, we don't always like talking about our day. That don't mean that we're not effective communicators. That just means that I don't want to maybe necessarily bring work home. You know what I'm saying? Whereas she may be in a space to where she like to talk about everything that go on at work. Listen, I don't even really care about your coworkers, but I'm just going to pretend like that's relevant conversation for me, because that's going to help me to get from point A to point B and what it is that I'm trying to do with you right now. So go ahead. You got another 7 minutes to talk about your coworker. Then it's like, okay, now what's up with you, girl? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all not trying to understand. Y'all not paying attention to the signs. Y'all just think that effective communication is a baseline based off of what women's expectations are. And it's not true. It's not accurate.
And so I don't know if you guys paid attention to the post that I put in the group, but it said that everything that creates a problem in a relationship is the meaning we give to our partner's behavior. Everything that creates a problem in a relationship is the meaning we give to our partner's behavior. So for an example, for people that don't understand, if you guys are having like this little discussion and the man becomes quiet, what meaning does that woman give to that? Oh, he doesn't love me. He's not available to me. He's not important to me. I'm not important to him. He doesn't care about me. I can't ask him for help. Depending on the person's response, like the woman gives that, she automatically gives a meaning to it. And a lot of times it's the wrong meaning, because you guys are not listening to the guy. You guys are just thinking how you want to feel, how you want to say, and that's the end of it.
You can't listen to body language though, JR. I mean, if somebody's just shut down, you can't listen to that. That's not communication. All you do is leave me to assume. So
no, that's not true.
But you guys are already assuming. It's not like you came in there and you asked a question. It's just like you just already assumed it already. It's like you gave it.
That's true.
You already gave it the meaning.
I always say the problem is the problem, not the person, right? So whatever we are arguing about is the problem, not whatever you did. But if your body language is showing me that you are done with this conversation, then what am I to assume? Now, I will even step further and say, so are you done? Or you done with this conversation? Now you still quiet and you still silent, then what am I supposed to do?
But what if I'm trying to, you said something that really pissed me off and I'm trying to not grab you up and hem you up right now? Like, what if, and of course, I'm not saying that this is me. Let's just be clear. I'm tired of y'all coming for me in the comments.
No, but you're just saying.
I'm giving an example, right? I'm giving a hypothetical situation. What if that guy is so pissed off right now that in order to ensure that things don't go completely left, he need a minute to decompress? What if he don't feel like saying, or what if he even does say, you know what, I need a minute to decompress? Because in the heat of the moment, in the heat of conversation, let's be real, Tawana, like, y'all not just like, oh, okay, I understand. Like, you in the moment, right? So what if I'm just chilling, like, you know what? Yeah, so what if I'm just stopping for a moment? But the fact that y'all assume automatically, like, it leads you down this rabbit hole that may not necessarily be accurate. So the thing about men is that we not that complicated. The fact that y'all make us more complicated than we really are is really what most of the problems come from.
Right.
It's not that deep. Like, okay, if I stop talking for a minute, then just leave it at that. It's always an opportunity to have another conversation, but to keep pushing, you know what I'm saying? To keep going, like you don't know what's going through his head. He might just had a bad day at work, and then you just threw this tornado on top of him, and he like, you know what? This chick was just trying to holler at me, and this is what I'm coming home to. Like that's a lot of the mindset for a lot of guys. Like, what am I putting up with? What am I subjecting myself to? I'm not even appreciated. So a lot of times, I think guys go quiet so that they can prevent themselves from doing things that they or saying something that they should not have said or put them in a worse position.
And that's because the woman is trying to look for something positive. You know, she's looking for the guy to give a positive response.
What is positive? Like that's beta male mentality though, man. Like
You said
to
she's
always
for the woman to give a positive response.
No,
the woman is.
yeah, like the woman is looking for it. You know, that's why she keep digging, but the guy's quiet, you know, but the woman is looking for like some type of response from him.
That's the mindset that you guys have, but that's definitely never the case. We just want to know what you're thinking. And for you guys, this is how you think. Well, it's not important, so I don't need to say it.
It's
just
not like it's not that it's not important. It's just
it's unnecessary.
You just keep nagging at it.
Yeah, y'all don't think we want to hear it, even though you think it's minute, even though you think it's
but we're not wired like that. We're not wired like that.
No,
We just want to
we asking for a reason because we want to get de-escalated before you get to the point where you so mad now you want to choke me. Like I need to talk through that conversation, and that's the frustrating part is trying to understand what is the actual problem so that we can address that. Like I don't even know what the problem is if you getting silent, being dismissive, and cutting me off. And so now
it could be your approach.
And that's what men say. It's the approach. How do you
see? You ain't even accept that though. You don't even. You know what I'm saying? Like that right there ain't even enough for you. You like, see, that's what you said. Like, you know what? What am I even talking about? You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna just go to the bar for a second and chill. I'll see you.
How your approach would be if I was dismissive, wasn't answering your questions, walking away from you, acting like what you saying don't exist, giving you one-word answers. You all right? Yeah. What's wrong with you? Nothing.
I'll give you a moment.
Why you doing that?
I'll be like, oh, seriously, my default is always, oh, okay, you know what? She probably need a moment. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't automatically assume or relate what it is that I'm doing or the conversation that we have to any specific problem that she may be having. I don't know. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give her a minute. That's just the default for me. I'm not necessarily requiring anything from you. You are human. You are allowed to feel things. Maybe you feel in a certain type of way. You don't have to meet my expectations at that time. I'll give you a moment. You'll come holler at me when it's time. It's not like we going anywhere. We got time.
Y'all love that. That's what y'all want to do anyway. Y'all don't want to talk about it. So y'all be, oh, good. She don't want to talk. Cool. Let me go
and I'm about to give you some insight right now. And this directly answers one of the questions that JR said as far as what men want. We don't want to argue. We want to enjoy the best of you. It's almost like me and my mom, we have the best relationship ever because we don't live together. I can enjoy the best of her. I don't have to see that other side of her. I don't have to see certain things that I don't necessarily agree with. And I talk with my wife about this all the time. It's like, sometimes we can have conversations and they can be so irrelevant, but they can be inciting so much emotion out of it. And it's like, hey, what are we talking about? Like, is this what we call an effective communication? Or are we talking about things that may not even necessarily be relevant? Is this helping our relationship? Is this even relevant to talk about? Or can we spend the overwhelming majority of our time enjoying the best of each other? Can we be spending our time not necessarily highlighting the things that we got issues with, but championing the things that are great about each other. And that's how we spend the majority of our time. We don't spend our time talking about stuff that I don't necessarily like when she cut her hair off. Guess what? She gonna still cut her hair off. I'm not even gonna talk about it. So for her to come home and ask me, what do you think about my hair? You already know I don't like short hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even gonna entertain that. I'm gonna spend my time focusing on the fact that you got on that dope dress and it accentuates your figure beautifully. I'm not even gonna look at your hair. And that's my thing. Like, I don't have to talk about every single thing. I just want to interact with the things that's ideal for us to be able to do things at the best level possible.
Yeah, you know what's interesting though. So Tawana, you was talking about this throughout the entire time about communication. We don't talk, and you know, the more I was kind of resisting what you were saying, I was thinking, right. And the thing is, you know, I think I'm not that version of me now, but I learned how to communicate, but in a way where it's like both, not just men and women, but just in general, how to express how I feel. I think traditionally, like JR mentioned, men aren't wired that way. We're very kind of outcomes driven. Like Anton mentioned about just fixing the problem. I only want to talk about things from the aspect of how can I resolve it? How can I fix it? I don't want to talk about the feeling or the process or the build up to it. I just need to know what needs to get done, point A to point B. But this actually, I think, came up for me at work where it applies to relationships, where I think it helped communicate it in a relationship. And really it goes back to just positive psychology, Brene Brown, Power of Vulnerability, where it was about work, but really about expressing when, hey, how do you tell somebody at work that you don't understand something, but you have this fear, this expectation, same thing in relationship, that somebody gonna judge you at work, right? So one of my colleagues that gave me the book to read or whatever said like, hey, this may help you out. It's kind of like more women-centered, but it may be something that, you know, you may want to read. And the thing is, it became one of those where, like, you know, we live in this shaming society where, you know, we almost have this fear that like, hey, if I do say something, you're going to jump on my back, or you're going to say something wrong, or, you know, it's going to create an argument. That same thing Anton mentioned, where it's just like, hey, I'm not trying to argue with you. But the thing is, there is a way of communicating, of just saying exactly what's on my mind at that moment. And not sad, I think in a good way, I learned it from reading the book. And the thing is, you know, not to say reading is fundamental, but I think that for men, we have to be in a space where we know how to express ourselves without being judged or without being viewed. But I think that that's not just for men, that's for women too. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of applicable to any group of people. But the thing is, I think that was something that I learned because I think historically, men just don't talk about things that really don't lead to an outcome. It's like, I'm arguing with you to tell you this because of what? So you mentioned, Tawana, like, oh, it's not a big deal, so what's the point of talking about it? But the thing is, I think that's the part where most women, they do want to talk about it. But for men, it's like, I don't see the outcome in talking about it. So I have now learned that, you know what? You're going to get this mental dump of exactly what's on my mind, whether you hate it or love it, whether it's ugly, positive, negative, but at least you know how I feel. And it really,
I can't do it, B-Nix.
Bingo.
Bingo. I agree with you, B-Nix. I'm not doing it.
But the thing is, why view conversations? Why every conversation is viewed as combative?
It's not every conversation. I think
it's most conversations.
Say something small and you view it like it's not important. But man may look at it like, well, what's the point of me doing this? I already know what's about to happen. This is going to lead to an argument. Then
y'all already are thinking about what the outcome, instead of saying, I'm not trying to come home about conversation and let's just move from there. No,
that's not true. Sometimes y'all just talking to just talk. Y'all just be talking.
No,
like real talk. Like sometimes y'all just be talking to talk. Okay, and if you look at the over,
we need to look at the. I do believe that we need to pick our battles, and I believe
from the beginning, though. Not pick your battle from the beginning. Like, don't just come in and talking, and then be like, you know what? I'm gonna pick my battle on this one. Like, no, from the very beginning, like if you really start putting it in perspective and start evaluating every single argument, every single conversation, every single interaction, and you start to really put it in perspective and start asking yourself, was that even worth mentioning? Is this even important? You know what I'm saying? Like, overwhelming, I bet you would find the overwhelming majority of those conversations could have been something else more positive. It could have been something else that was, you know, actually improving the relationship or creating a great experience within that time. And I'm using specific words because I don't want to get too explicit, but in general, like the overwhelming majority of these confrontations are needless. They silly. And I don't even understand why we not asking that question. Like, do we even need to talk about that? And that's what I ask. I say to myself, like, if I see something I don't necessarily like, it may not even be worth bringing up because it's not even that relevant. If I nitpicked at every single thing that I did not care for, I'd be talking all day. I'm not doing that, bro.
It's nothing worse than feeling unheard. And when a woman feels unheard and when she doesn't feel like you're valuing the conversations that she brings to the table, then that's when you see those confiding, you know, piggybacking off our last relationship conversation about about conversating with your friends and telling your friends all your personal business. And that's probably why, because a woman,
I'm out on that.
We have to know the steps. Like you can't just go from out to the outcome with us. Like, well, this ain't gonna lead to a positive interaction, so we can't do it. No, we need to hear.
That's how the men's wired. I'm not even saying for me personally. I think we've seen it in just older family, as far as men in other Black families, or even white families. No, any family. I think men just look at it like, hey, it's about the outcome. So what do you need me to do? It's almost like, then tell me what's wrong. And then a woman may say, like, it's not about me telling you. If I have to tell you what's wrong, then I know what's going on. So then, like,
what's wrong? It's about hearing how I feel about it so that we can get
don't talk about that. Like, we don't, like, y'all talk about that in in general with you all, your women, your friends. Men don't talk about that. Like, hey, it's about outcomes. Point A to point B, that's it. Very black and white, no gray area. So when you all have these conversations with each other, and then you kind of take the same approach with men just don't process information that way. It's very outcomes based. That's it. What's the problem?
A good point.
Like, what's the root cause? How do I fix it?
Think of it as you being dismissive.
Here's the effect.
Yeah. But I'm always able to effectively like take over or really get to the meat of whatever the conversation that we talking about when we talking, and then I say, okay, so what is it exactly that you're asking of me? Or, okay, so what's the solution? Silence. 100% silence. Because they just want to vent, bro. And so I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. So talking.
That's the perception. And that
okay, so you just want to talk. You want to hear yourself talk. You want to sound good. You want to snatch dreams out the air by talking like this and all that other type of stuff. That's cool. All right. So what's the solution?
You don't want us to criticize your lack of understanding. But you want to criticize like, seriously, we need to hear all of the steps in between. The outcome is not as important to us as what happened.
But I'm going to tell you why I don't want to hear it, though.
No, we want to know what led up to that feeling.
I'm going to tell you why I don't want to hear it, though. You know why I don't want to hear it? Because this conversation ain't about what you want. This conversation is about what I want as a man. What do women need to understand about men? Not what we need to understand. This ain't your time. This ain't your time. This is about what it is that you need to understand about me, not what I need to understand about you.
That's true. And I understand a few things. And what was a great point, B-Nix, you know, that whole interpretation of just like being at work and being afraid to talk about when you're not understanding something, right? A project that you're responsible for. Like, I don't really completely get it, like how to communicate that translate into relationships and communication, especially with men. And so understanding that dynamic is eye-opening, because you don't look at it like that. Like, you guys don't process the information that way. You just want to know what's the end goal. So maybe if we start with, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. Like, I just want to you know, get on the same page about this. Like, and then maybe you all will be willing to listen to everything else we're talking about, because we already telling you what the outcome is. Like, we want to, you know, increase our sex life, whatever we want to do, right? Like, whatever the goal is in this conversation, we're talking about it first. And then maybe y'all can open your minds to listen to everything.
I implore every single woman that I implore every single woman that watches this to do an experiment. The experiment is take 1 week and not talk about what you think is right or what you want, and focus 100% exclusively on what it is that he wants and he needs and what his desires are. And be open-minded and don't criticize and don't have a lot to say about it as far as like what he needs to do. Just listen to him, and you'll learn 10 times more than whatever your friend could ever tell you. Whatever advice, whomever it is that you have in communication with, whatever you're expressing it, just take 1 week and spend that entire week tending to his mindset, his thoughts, how he feels about certain things, and what it is that he needs in order to be fulfilled in that relationship. You'll learn a whole lot.
I agree.
I don't agree with that. I think that y'all get a lot of attention.
Try it. You got to try it first. I do it.
What you think? I do that.
And then we're gonna bring you back on. We're gonna ask you what happened. What was the outcome?
Hey, do 1 week. Just take 1 week. Like 1 week.
Try.
Think about it. Like the goal is to spend the rest of your life with each other, right? But to spend 1 week really getting a true understanding for who he is and what his desires are and what his mindset is, without any kind of restrictions attached to it or snatching of the dreams with the talking, like, you'll be surprised. It'll completely transform your relationship.
I'm gonna start Monday.
Okay, yeah, start Monday. Hey, you guys, like, I want to kind of end it off with this, and I want Anton and B next to chime in on it. Sometimes men want to be alone, and it has nothing to do with you.
I'm gonna let B next go first because I got my own narrative about
it. Again, JR, you said men want to be alone.
Sometimes men want to be alone, and it has nothing to do with you, men and women. Is that true?
That's all I got to say. Yeah.
Why?
I mean, just a space just to uninterrupted, a space that's not disturbed, just to be, alone by myself. I think in some cases, men, and not to say women don't, but I don't think men have the space to just be alone, alone by myself with my thoughts, whether it's in the car ride or something like that. But usually if you, and not just men, but women too, we all in the role of providing for each other, but we never have an outlet of just time to reflect. When we talk about being self-reflective, looking at ourselves, how can we improve? If I never have the space to be by myself, to think clearly without thinking more from an operational perspective of what I got to do, then I never have time to improve myself. I mean, for me, I can say that right now, like, hey, if I'm on the couch and I'm, by myself, that's cool. That's no shade to anyone in the house, or like I'm fake mad or being passive aggressive. I think it's just really, there's a level of value when you give someone their own individual space in order to help them clear their mind, find themselves. We see people do hey, I'm gonna take a car ride, whatever it is. I feel you gotta give people the space. And I think it's healthy for our own mental health to give people their own personal space by themselves for them to define who they are.
I think you're absolutely right, Phoenix. But I think that the reason that we're like that, so for example, we spend the overwhelming majority of our life tending to other people's needs, right? We always thinking about somebody else. And that's almost like just a natural thing as a man. So when you put that into perspective, we never really get any time to ourselves. And so even to the point to where when we do finally either do something for ourselves or do something by ourselves, let's just say you go to the restaurant by yourself. It's almost like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, that's the first natural instinct is like, well, what's wrong with you? But I've learned personally to spend a lot of time making sure that whenever it is that I detach mentally first, and then I figure out, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just take some time to go and do my own thing. And that's fine because I've communicated with that. Like, I've communicated that. She understands that that's just who I am. I think that, and the young guys that I mentor, I tell them all the time because they between like 14 and like 24, yo, bro, get some time to learn yourself. Like, don't spend the overwhelming majority of your time trying to understand other people or trying to be in a relationship, or like, you can take a minute and figure out who you are, what you like, learn about what it is that makes you tick. Because if you know good to yourself, I'm not going to be any good to anybody else. So I think that women also just need to understand that because I may want to be by myself does not mean that I don't want to link up or I don't love you. Like, it has nothing to do with you. You are not a part of every single decision that I'm doing in my life.
I think you made some great points. Tawana, I want to ask you this. You've been listening to the guys speak. Have you learned anything about men?
Absolutely. I've learned a few things. I mean, I think that men are a little bit more complex than they say. I think men say, "Oh yeah, we're simple." Like, it's really a little bit more complicated than that. And I think that we need to understand how to relate better. And if we know how you think about conversations, communication, and the outcome, then maybe that could change the communication, completely. And I do think that from Anton, I learned, you need to pick your battles, and, some things are important and some things aren't. And I do think that that is true. Do I think that every conversation is not important? No. But I do think that sometimes, some conversations aren't as important. And, just to be Nick's point, like, we just need to understand, like, that you don't have to be afraid to talk about certain things, and you shouldn't be shamed for talking about certain things. And I think he just brought up a good point, as, when he got older and, like, in the workplace and just being in the career, you learn that communication is essential for some things that you need. So yeah, y'all taught me a lot. I'm gonna go back and do my little week next week or 2 weeks from now, something like that. And focus.
I'm gonna be checking the group to see what you say too.
I appreciate.
Hold on, before you even say that though, JR, I am 99.9% sure that he's going to, like, love you 10 times more or fall deeper in love with you as a result of it. I guarantee it.
We can't hear you.
We'll see. We shall see. I was just laughing because I'm like, we'll see. I feel like that's what I do all the time, but I'll do it a little bit more intentionally this time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part of growth. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to get uncomfortable in order to grow. I appreciate you guys tuning in for Lapeef Let's Talk. This conversation will be uploaded on YouTube. Just put in Lapeef Let's Talk. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, we out.
Next time.
Appreciate you. Thank you, guys.